Today's gathering is called Humanity's Awakening, Rebuilding Our World. Well, that's a very broad topic. And I thought, as perhaps many of you have thought, that the best thing to focus on now is our climate and our environment. So that could apply to an appeal to law and order, the title, Justice for All, or Moral Reawakening. But since everyone has been talking about the environment and how we are faced with an environmental catastrophe, if we do not succeed in limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels by the end of this century, I thought I would dwell on this. The phrase rebuilding our world in the title is very close to the Hebrew tikkun olam, which is repairing the world, which was first used in the Mishnah, which is the Jewish oral law, first written down about 200 CE or AD, as opposed to the written law of the Torah, which some of you will know as the Old Testament of the Bible. Tikkun olam also covers warnings about abusing the environment and how to care for it. According to the Torah, when God created the first couple, he blessed them, saying, "Fill the world and conquer it," in Genesis 1:28. Now, conquest can be for the pursuit of purpose of exploitation, or for the sake of development. Which did the Creator intend? The early rabbis answered this question in a midrash, which is a sort of homily or story based on a biblical passage. When God created the first man, he took him around to all the trees in the Garden of Eden and said to him, "See my handiwork, how beautiful and choice they are. Be careful not to ruin and destroy my world, for if you ruin it, there is no one to repair it after you." The modern slogan for this, I suppose, would be, "There is no planet B." Later on, the Torah states more specifically that God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden, I quote, "to work it and to guard it," Genesis 2:15. And we see here that the Torah views man as being entrusted with the orderly and proper management of the world. Therefore, we may not stand aside and watch the world being destroyed. So much for the principle. What about the practice? Well, the Mishnah, the oral Torah, gets into the nitty-gritty of guarding the world. The feeling here is think global but act local. One example is, remember we're living in biblical times now, one must distance a threshing floor 50 cubits from the city, and a cubit is the distance between your elbow and the tip of your finger. So that the chaff will not harm the city's residents. 50 cubits was also the minimum distance separating a tannery from the city, and must only be located to the east of the city because the winds usually blow from the west, and foul smells would therefore be blown away from the residential area. Now, how might such considerations apply today? We could ask, can we make choices about whether we buy from polluters? In my own little way, I chose to buy peat-free compost from the local garden centre instead of the regular damaging kind. I should add, I'm not trying to boast here, but lots of other people did the same, and I was very pleased to see that the stocks of the regular peat were much larger than the stocks of the peat-free version. Of course, I acknowledge that in the true spirit of Tikkun Olam, I could have made my own compost, but that's another matter. In a broader sense, we could ask, how should we as a community respond to polluting businesses in densely populated areas? The two obvious examples spring to mind, of course, the Union Carbide pesticide disaster in India in 1984, and of course, the Chernobyl nuclear plant meltdown in Ukraine in 1986, both near towns. Let me end with a little story or parable from the Midrash. This is told by Honi Hamagel, a first century Jewish scholar. He was walking along the road when he saw a man planting a carob tree, and Honi said to him, "How many years will it take this tree to bear fruit?" The reply was, "It will not produce fruit until 70 years have passed." Honi then asked him, "Is it obvious to you that you will live 70 years to benefit from this tree?" And the man replied, "When I came into the world, I found it stocked by those who came before me. I now provide for those who will come after me." Perhaps this story is one that tells us what we as individuals and communities can do in our own small ways in the context of COP26. Now, I have a little confession to make. I was supposed to bring a piece of music, and I set it out, and in the rush, I forgot it. So, with the aid of Sheena, I got onto her mobile phone, and I found and reminded myself of a prayer which is central to Judaism and is recited every Saturday. And some Christians may be familiar with the English. And it goes like this. And I need a hat, I'm afraid, because I have to cover my head when I give a prayer. So, normally, it's not a hat like this. Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka. May he turn his face upon you and be generous to you. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Thank you.